Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. Look at it. Look at things being made great again in the greatest city in the world, Gotham. You're all citizens of Gotham. That's why you watch this show. This is the People's Channel. You're the best and smartest fans in the world. Quick little announcement. Lee Camp and I are going to be doing a live Government Secrets in London, kiddos. Oh, yep. We're coming to England. October 12th, live Government Secrets. More European tour dates to be announced. Go to grahamelwood.com. Also, October 26th, I'm taping my live comedy special at Chicago at the Zanies in downtown Chicago. That's at grahamelwood.com. More dates to be added, too, for that little Midwest run, like Madison, Detroit, and Cincinnati. So stay tuned on grahamelwood.com for tour dates. We have the craziest political thing in the world. I don't even know. I can't even call it a system. I don't even know what what do you call America's politics? Just an insane asylum. But I was wondering when the January 6th trial, they really started ramping it up. I'm like, I bet you they're going to try to arrest Trump. And not that they shouldn't, or they have evidence. And so this just happened today. Trump says FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. This is Monday, August 8th. Just this happened today. And I haven't really covered a lot of this because the mainstream media is covering it. But I have noticed a lot of sort of lefty indie YouTuber people or indie media, some of them, they really minimize January 6th. And I've said that's a mistake. And the reason many of them do it, my guess is because the corporate media, when they get all, oh, this is crazy, it's easy to say, oh, they're lying, or and the corporate media does lie. They do represent half of the truth a lot of the time. But I always said this about January 6th, man. It was not a small, it wasn't an event that the media is blowing out of proportion. If you saw that happen in any other country, you'd go, oh, man. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this is bad. Not everybody there was a Nazi. Yeah, but there were people with AR-15s that had neo-Nazi shirts on, and you had Americans have the right, and this January 6th brings up a lot of stuff like the right to protest and freedom of speech. You have the right to go outside of the Capitol and protest. You have the right to say, Trump has the right to say, I was cheated. Whether you believe him or agree with him or not, he has the right to say that. As an American citizen and as the president, he can say, I was cheated. This election is fake. And you have the right to go down, protest at the Capitol building. When you break into government property and you have a gun and you kick down doors and people died, you don't have the right to do that. And when you're a president and you say, hey, go to the Capitol, you can't do that. That's not protected speech. And what has come out in this trial is that Trump has hidden information. There's 15 boxes. A lot of testimony has come forward to say he, told people to do this and all this stuff. Now you can say, oh, the deep state is involved. Yeah, of course. The head of the Oath Keepers and the head of the Proud Boys were FBI informants. But again, one of the reasons I do this show is I don't like to get into this just sort of binary black or white thinking where it's just either this or it's that. It's all this or all that. And many things can be true at once. The FBI probably helped incite January 6th. No two ways about it. However, and there are a lot of heavily armed, dangerous neo-Nazi groups in this country, and there have been for a long time. And they're scary. They're on the FBI's watch list because they're dangerous. But did the FBI help? I mean, there's a lot of questions about January 6th that also should be directed at other people, not just Trump. Why were the DC police not? Why was the military? Like, it's almost like the whole government, not just Trump and his guys, went, let's just let this happen. You know what I mean? There's a lot more going on that we may never know the truth to. But to just dismiss it and say, oh, it's nothing, it's crazy, it's just the liberal media going, nah, no. And I don't like the corporate media. I chastise them on the show all the time. But this was a real event. This was something that was treason. If we're supposed to be a democratic society where you vote and we have, a peaceful transference of power And that didn't happen. And you could say Biden cheated. You could, but as I pointed out on this show, when it happened a year and a half ago, I said, sure, the Democrats cheated, but so do the Republicans. Our whole system is broken. So the Democrats cheat, the Republicans cheat, they all cheat. The whole system is corrupt. So if all of America just went to the Capitol building to say we're fed up, okay. But it was all Trump supporters. It was almost all white people too. Let's call that what it is. Like friends of mine, of comedian James Monet, who's been on the show that I do Comedy Island with, he has a joke in his act like, wow, white people went nuts. Because that was his view. And I was like, you're right. It was almost all white people there. And so Trump is corrupt as the day is long, as is Biden, as is Obama, as is Bush, the Clintons. The whole system is corrupt. I'd love to see them all get arrested. But the main thing I want to focus on is, are they going to, and arresting Trump could incite some of his base to go nuts, which could really ramp up as we move into this November election, the midterms, and it'll really ramp up November of 2024, because if Trump is now, if he's arrested, who knows what, but he could be deemed ineligible to run for president again, which automatically makes it DeSantis. So, I mean, there's so many, DeSantis could be like, hey, let's get Trump arrested so I can be the nominee. DeSantis could be, you know, I don't trust any of these people and in any way, shape or form. And DeSantis is, what I've always said is Trump didn't like him as a president. You know, he didn't create racism in America. He stirred it up, but it was always there. It's been there for a long time. But I said Trump was not an ideologue. Trump is just a narcissist who's just like, I'm Trump. I'm the best. I'm number one. I'm always great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. What is really scary, and this is why when people really wanted to impeach Trump and they wanted to replace him with Mike Pence, that would have been a horrible idea. Mike Pence is nuts. And had Trump just handled COVID better, he would have been reelected. So if you were like a liberal Democrat or whatever, and you just hated Trump, well, you got what you wanted. He's gone. And now it looks like he might go to jail and never be eligible to be president again. So that's got what you wanted. And then when they were just like screaming for impeachment, I was like, well, we could impeach every president we've ever had, just about. So we could have had Mike Pence. What if, imagine this parallel universe. They impeach Trump. Mike Pence becomes president. COVID hits. Pence actually handles COVID correctly, gets reelected. Or gets elected for the first time, because that's the other thing too. When a vice president takes over midway through a term, it doesn't count. So Pence could have, you know, they impeached or they tried to impeach Trump in 2019. Pence could have been president from 2019, then reelected in 2020. And now 2024 is actually, or not reelected, but that would be his first, you know, 4 years would be 2020. He could run again in 24. So then we could have had literally 12 years of Trump and Pence. Think of that. But I always said, you're so mad at Trump. And if the Democrats don't come in and make real policy to make working class Americans' lives better, then the Republicans are going to run a full-on fascist, which could be somebody like DeSantis or General Mad Dog Mattis. Like full-on, like Americans don't understand, full-on fascism is coming. And it won't just be from the Republicans. The Democrats are pretty good at doing fascist stuff as well. So I wanted to bring that up with regard to this, what happened today at Mar-a-Lago. But I also wanted to talk. We'll get into a bunch of stuff that if they find this in Trump's house, that won't make the light of day. Rhymes with Epstein. In May, a federal grand jury also began investigating whether Trump had mishandled classified documents, which I think is the main reason for this FBI raid, was to get these mishandled documents, including taking 15 boxes of materials to the Florida resort. This is why Trump is just, God, he thinks he can just do whatever he wants. So he's kind of dumb in that regard. And when you're president of the United States, he thinks it's just like, I'm the CEO. There's all these rules in place when you're president. You can't, and when you're not president anymore, you don't get to take classified documents out of that house. You can't do that. So there's all number of things that he's done. But he took them to the resort. So this was what I saw on Twitter. So Barb McQuade is a lawyer that is on MSNBC a lot. So FBI searched Trump's at-home Mar-a-Lago, discussing on NBC. These are all of the people, of course, a bunch of Democrats or whatever. Keep in mind that FBI can obtain a search warrant only if a judge finds probable cause to believe that evidence of a specific crime will be found at the premises. So they had to prove that to the judge. Now, I don't know who the judge was, and I haven't had time because this just happened today. This could have been a right-wing judge that, you know, Democrats helped rubber stamp to get into place. It could be the Republican Party helping let this happen because they don't want Trump because he's so divisive. Because let me tell you something. What the ruling elites don't want is another summer of 2020 where Americans, part of this was everybody was stuck inside because of quarantine, Americans taking to the streets, pulling down statues. This, I will never forget this. During that first week or so of the George Floyd protests, where the whole country went no way, and people were protesting all over the world, people had surrounded the White House and breached the perimeter of the White House, and the media didn't cover it. Because had the media gone, oh my God, there's crowds around the White House, 10,000 more people would have said, we're taking the White House. It would have been like insane. And ultimately, the ruling class doesn't want that. They don't want people just take all of Americans. They like stirring up this group or that group. But when people, and they saw the George Floyd protests, it was the most diverse Black Lives Matter protest that we've ever seen in this country. You know, I spoke at one, and this dude came up to me afterwards and was like, he was this black guy. He goes, man, I've never seen this many white people at Black Lives Matter protest in my life. And I've been to a bunch of them. But remember, people were protesting in Atlanta, not outside of Fox News. They were protesting outside of CNN's headquarters. CNN started in Atlanta. So why I think even Republicans and people in power like Trump fired people up when he got into office. People who were at brunch for 8 years under Obama, they got in the streets, they protested, and people were like, so they don't want that again. They don't want that again. So they want to bring somebody like DeSantis, who's not going to say crazy, awful stuff. He's going to do awful stuff. DeSantis will say some crazy stuff because he's a right-wing nutbag. But you got to remember, that's why they were so happy to get Joe Biden in there. And they want business as usual. They want people not paying attention. They want people just poking their head up every once in a while, going, oh, my party beat that party. Yeah, you know, this little election, that little election. They don't want people paying attention anymore. And they're afraid of that happening again. This is just my theory. So I think they're trying to, like, let's get Trump out of here, bring in DeSantis, and then Kamala's going to replace Joe Biden before his first term. And then we'll just go back to business as usual of kicking this football back to the Republicans and the Democrats, and just like, because they don't want people to really protest and realize the whole system is broken. Right? They don't want that. They understand that 99 is more than one. And if most Americans wake up and just say, oh, we're getting rid of the powerful elites, we're getting rid of all of them. You know, like if not just Trump supporters, but all of America went to the Capitol and just took out everybody in Congress and the Senate and said, we're starting a new government. That's what they don't want. And they know how, and they saw how easily America was like fed up. And with a recession and $6 a gallon, and people, this financially are going to get pushed to the limit in the next couple of years. And I'm telling you, January 6th is going to look like a Disney parade. But that's why I think they just want to get somebody business as usual that doesn't, like Trump incited so much crazy support and hatred. It got everybody all wound up. And ultimately, I don't think they want that. This is just my theory. Trump's handling of records that were subject to protection under the Presidential Records Act was under scrutiny throughout the day Monday after New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman released photos that appeared to show that Trump tried to dispose of documents by ripping them up and placing them in toilets. That is, again, you can't do that. I'm sure plenty of other presidents in both parties have ripped up documents, but Trump was just, I always said this about Trump. He's just the most egregious version of a president we've had. The most, I mean, Obama dropped more bombs than Bush. Obama had a 90% civilian kill rate, basically. 90% of the victims of Obama's bombs and drones were what was called unintended targets. So Obama did awful stuff, but his tweets were nice. His interviews were polite. And the right played ball by only criticizing Obama on crazy stuff, right? Whoever's president, the other side only criticizes the way they fight war. Nobody at Fox News is like, why is Joe Biden spending all this money on war? Nobody's saying that. Why is he getting another $880 billion? They're upping his budget by over $100 billion. Nobody's saying that. None of the Biden's worst critics in the Republican Party and at Fox News are never going to say that. Just like Trump's worst critics are never going to say that. Trump also lamented that his opponent in the 2016 presidential race, Hillary Clinton, was allowed to delete and acid wash 33,000 emails after they were subpoenaed by Congress. Well, this is one of the few times I actually agree with Trump. He's not wrong. She did get rid of a lot of stuff because she's corrupt as the day is long, and her and Trump used to be friends. So what is also funny in American politics is how people just screams. They don't even realize they have no historical reference. So the FBI did this raid today. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's nuts, wrote defund the FBI. Which, this is so funny to me that a QAnon MAGA supporter is now saying defund the police. I agree with her, actually. I agree with Marjorie. I mean, is she going to do a hashtag BLM tweet next? I would love to defund the FBI. I would love to defund our military and the police departments and all that. Because right-wingers like this are saying, oh, defund the police. You just want to give them squirt guns and let the criminals know. We shouldn't be spending so much money on this, especially, you know, I've said this numerous times. LAPD is the greatest example. They get 54% of the city of Los Angeles's total operating budget. We could take some of that money and build housing for the homeless and programs and and really reduce crime and homelessness and make LA just a beautiful city. And we could do that at cities all over America, all over the whole country. We could do that. Every city has a homeless problem, which brings up a whole myriad of other problems. And many of them are, it's untreated mental illness or drug addiction, or they just lost their jobs and homes during COVID and they're just struggling, trying to get by. This is how crazy America is. This is how crazy America is. Right? It's like when the right, the anti-abortion people were saying, my body's my choice, with like masks. But I'll tell you one thing, and I'm probably one of the only people going to talk about this. I bet you at Mar-a-Lago, they're going to find more than just what happened on January 6th. And that no one will talk about. When they find information implicating people like that, there's Trump while he was president hanging out with Prince Andrew. This is June of 2019. Like literally 6 weeks before Epstein got arrested. Oh, hey, look, there's Trump with Epstein and rat-faced Ghislaine Maxwell. These two people are pedophile sex. He hung himself with a paper t-shirt. She just got moved to a low security prison in what state? Oh, Florida. Weird. Weird. So while all this FBI stuff is happening at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, I bet you some Maxwell-related shenanigans are happening. Oh, did she just happen to break out? Did they run out of funding at her prison and they just put an anklet on her and let her fly away on a Learjet, but they're going to make her check in with her parole officer? What happened today, folks? What happened that they're not? Whenever there's a big story, I tell you, I've told you this. I told you this. I said, if she gets acquitted or reduced sentence, or she goes to appeal and they turn over her case in the appeal, it'll happen the day Trump gets arrested or something like that. So there's got to be something else happening, folks. And none of this stuff, if they find any Epstein ties, they won't mention any of it. Now, I can show you firsthand. Here's Epstein partying with Trump. There's Ghislaine Maxwell. There's Naomi Campbell, who was listed by several Epstein victims. There's Maximum Trump all the time. This is why when she first got arrested, he said, and as president, I wish her well. I wish her well. There's Ghislaine Maxwell hanging out with Prince Andrew years ago. There's Epstein with the royal family. I bet you if they find like videotapes of them all in some hideous goddamn pedophile, horrifying, whatever, I bet you that's not going to come out. I bet you none of this, because here's the other thing. We have seen nothing, no other names come out of the Maxwell trial. Maxwell was convicted, sentenced to 20 years in prison. No other names mentioned. We haven't even seen a photo of her. We didn't see any video of her getting moved from New York to Florida. So I just find this curious. In Mar-a-Lago, there's Epstein. Numerous women were trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. So all of the QAnon people who think Trump has no ties to Epstein are deluding themselves. The Clintons do, obviously. I've mentioned this numerous times. They, you know, Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. You know, Bill Clinton was on Epstein's plane 26 times. Flight logs show this. Flight logs show Hillary was on 2 times. Flight logs show Trump was on 5 times. Right? They're all pals. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Oh, hey, look, there's Trump and Bill Clinton. Both of these guys have been on Epstein's plane. He's got some creep pedophileness to him, right? By the way, Virginia Roberts here with Prince Andrew. This is when she's a minor. And he denies this. I didn't even know if that was my hand. I would never be caught without a dinner jacket. Like this is that stupid thing he said. There's rat-faced pedophile, sex trafficking, rapist Ghislaine Maxwell. She was trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. It's a lot of stuff. What's down in Florida? What's happening in Florida? So, I mean, I hope Trump goes to jail and gets arrested, but I hope they really expose all the powerful people, and they won't. Because if the FBI goes and arrests Trump, they seized stuff today from his place. They had a search warrant to get information. So he hasn't been arrested yet or charged. But what about all this stuff? And let me think of this. I want you to think of this. All that stuff that was seized out of Epstein's penthouse in New York in July of 2019 when he got arrested. And I talk about that all the time. Where is that info? Maybe the reason they seized it was to hold on to it, get rid of it, whatever, make sure it never sees the light of day, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of what this is. They went to Florida to Mar-a-Lago today to make sure they cleaned up some Epstein loose ends so that, and no one's asking questions about Trump's ties to Epstein. Not even people on CNN and MSNBC that don't like Trump. You'd think they'd be all over that. In December of last year, during the Maxwell trial, when 118 pages of flight logs were released, and they found 4 new flights that Epstein had Trump on. Trump was on Epstein's plane 4 new times. We thought it was just 1 flight. It turns out it's 5. The media didn't say anything about that. So I wonder if one of the FBI guys today during the search warrant, if they find anything, they're going to be like, oh, we found a box of, videos or whatever with Epstein and Trump and Prince Andrew and Jean-Luc Brunel and the Clintons all, trafficking children. Oops, that's going to accidentally fall into this big fire incinerator. Always see what's going on. Look at this hand. What's going on over here? It's a magic trick. Look at this hand. Because over here, I'm doing the real magic. I'm switching it around here. This is what I want you to watch. This is what I want you to watch. Trump's guilty of January 6th. He is. But again, oh, he committed a crime and he incited a riot on January 6th. We got him. Case closed. What about all the ties to Epstein? Oh, no, January 6th. Case closed. Don't talk about it. You see how they always seal it off? Something else happened today that no one's talking about. I guarantee it. Big stuff doesn't happen like this under. Is it coordinated? Maybe. At the very least, they go, ooh, this big thing's happening today. Let's release that. Did Ghislaine Maxwell just get found? Oh, we'll give her a work release. We just commuted her sentence. Did that just happen today? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, folks. I can connect just about anybody to Epstein, anybody in power, anybody. Whenever there's an Epstein connection, just know that anything, the land of make-believe is now, they just start changing stuff. Up is down, day is night. Like everything just, there's all of a sudden things just get a little weird. Yeah, we've never seen Maxwell mugshot. We just, anytime there's Epstein involvement, and there's a lot with Trump, just like the Clintons. So DeSantis is in Florida. I bet you DeSantis is making some backroom deals to make sure he's the nominee and he needs to get rid of Trump. These people have no allegiance to anything other than power and money. That's their allegiance. They don't care about party or whatever. You know what I'm saying? If DeSantis could, if they said, well, you'll be president, provided you have to, you know, be in an openly gay marriage, he'd probably be like, you got it, you know, whatever. Like, these people have no scruples, no nothing. DeSantis is a little bit of a psycho. He's a fascist, but there it is, folks. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. The clown show continues. The clown show of American politics. Run by sex trafficking billionaire pedophiles. That's the story they don't want you to know. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.